Alright guys, doing another update on the Ferguson TO30. Alright, I've been spending whatever time I might have ripping her apart and getting ready to change a lot of parts. Hoping for the best here. But anyways, as you guys have been following know, starter gave me problems, ripped the starter out, took it all apart, and it was really very rusty inside. I cleaned it all up as best I could. That rubber bushing on that connector is good. Alright, but this still comes out as a ground. This, where the juice connects, is somehow, some way in there making a ground. But aside from that, I believe the Bendix is kind of messed up as well. Look at the travel of that Bendix. You see that? It's less than a half inch, quarter inch from the gear to the end. And she's not even traveling that quarter inch when I turn this. It's just not quite even traveling the whole quarter inch, let alone going the rest of the way. So obviously that whole gear is not engaging into that starter, no way. And that's why the starter motor has that, the flywheel rather has the shiny markings on it. This gear has not been engaging. At any rate, I'm very fortunate. A friend of mine's got Fergie parts, and so I'm going to be able to get another starter from him and change it. One of my other YouTube friends commented that the starter looked like a newer type starter. And maybe these, what I thought were grinding markings were actually not grinding markings that came that way from the factory. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I've never seen that before. But at any rate, I'm not going to ditch this. I'm going to hang on to it, as I do everything for parts. You never know. But that's the story. The starter for right now is being eliminated. Okay. Other parts that are being eliminated, as you can see, been a little busy here. Fuel bowl. The lines on the top of the fuel bowl were so freaking rusted I barely touched them. They snapped off. Unbelievable. Terrible. And the shut-off was also not working. So, again, my buddy with the Fergie parts got one of these for me. This is the switch that goes on the top of the front of the tranny, and what the shifter gear operates. Shifter gear actually has a linkage that pushes up on the button and makes the tractor start. It's a great safety device. On the shifter here, it's clearly marked. Well, you can't see clearly, but over here, opposite reverse, is an S, and that's the starter. You push it over to the right and up, and that engages a linkage which pushes on this button and makes it start. Now, the great idea behind that is that it's impossible to start this tractor in gear. So you cannot have that that accident of possibly starting a tractor and somebody standing behind you or in front of you or wherever and having an accident. So that's a great device. Now, a lot of guys, when that switch goes, as did the person who owned this vehicle, they just eliminated it and they put in a regular old solenoid. Okay? Yes, it will work. Not a good idea. In my opinion, keep it original. Okay, so pull that out. Alright? Then we had a momentary switch here for the ignition. So it was a solenoid and then a momentary switch for the ignition. It was a jerry-rig job. Alright, so we ripped that out. Then we get the old voltage regulator, okay, which was hanging by a thread on the rubber connectors. So, new voltage regulator will be here hopefully by the end of the week. So, and also we're replacing the cables with brand new 6-volt gauge cables. Alright, you must use the 6-volt gauge, 1 or 0 gauge cables to get the full electrical juice, the amperage, to your starter on a 6-volt system. You can't use 12-volt cables. They might work for you, but they're not going to work long, and they're going to really, really wear down your battery. and cause your starter to really work hard. So you need the 6-volt gauge wires. They're going to be replaced. So, and moving on to other possibilities, I got this old dash here, which you guys might remember from my old video of the 411, the B411, I believe it was. I might be even saying the wrong number. But the old International Diesel, which I took the loader off. So I got this old dash here, so I just pulled the water temperature gauge off it, which I'm hoping I can get a dry connector and make that work. And I also just pulled the ignition switch off it. Now this here has the pull button. There's a pull button here to pull that button out that sends the juice to the coil. Okay, and then you start the tractor. Okay, that'll work. It'll work fine, but I'm not going to use it. Alright, I'm going to use the ignition switch. And the ignition switch is going to send the juice to the coil and to that switch. And in turn, that switch will be wired up to my lights. The reason I like the key so much, as opposed to just a button, some guys say, well, you can lose the key. Yeah, well, the key is good because then when you got kids visiting, my grandchildren, whatever, fooling around and hitting buttons and playing with things, I take the key out and everything is safe. Nothing's going to get turned on by accident. And so I like the key. So that's a really heavy duty key. It's nice, and it's going to get wired in there. So that's the story on that. And see what else we got to report here. Really not much. I'm going to do a complete tune-up to it. All new parts, new coil, new sediment bowl. I put the sediment bowl I had on there. It's a deeper bowl. It's longer. It screws into the tank beautifully. Has a shut off. I might possibly use that. I don't know yet. I'm thinking the sediment bowl just does that. You know, the sediments in the gas sink to the bottom. So I'm thinking maybe the longer one might be a good idea. More room for sediment to settle. I don't know if that's logical or not. But at any rate, I'm getting the sediment bowl from my buddy, so I'll probably put the original in there. But it's good to know I have that as a backup. And new coil, new tune-up parts, all new wiring, 100%. We'll go with all new wiring, new switches, and check everything else out. This thing is going to get thoroughly checked out before I try to crank this engine over. It's going to be all new, getting a brand new 6-volt battery. I am keeping the original 6-volt positive ground. So that's the story. Hanging on to old parts and cannibalizing what I got left. It's actually a nice switch there. I don't know what the hell I could use it for, but it's a nice 4-way switch, as well as this switch here, which was actually for the glow plugs, I believe. But at any rate, I'm really just using that water temperature gauge really to fill the hole in the dash, and the other 2 holes are filling with switches for the front lights and the back lights. I'm going to mount 2 back lights, as I do on all my tractors, flashing lights with a flasher unit in it. So just trying not to get ahead of myself here. I want to get all these electrical parts in, get it cranked up, and after I hear this thing fire and run, then we'll play around with the fun stuff. But this is what's important. This is what's got to get done first. And and I got information about the loader. I think I got that all figured out. Contemplated taking the loader off, but now I got second thoughts. I believe I'm going to leave the loader on, and I figured out how to hook it up the proper way, thanks to help from guys on forums. So that's the story on that. The loader is getting hooked up. I actually got a drawbar that I, again, got off of that International. So the drawbar goes across there, and basically how the loader is powered, there's a port on the right side that you tap into, and the 3-point has to be locked with a T, a bar from here across to the drawbar, and it locks it at the mid position, not too far down, not too far up. You got to play with the position you need for the height of the pistons on the loader. And what that does is then you're stopping the fluid from running to the 3-point, and it's diverted to the pistons for the loader. That's the way they always hook these up. So that's the story. That's everything just about. Hopefully get this baby going in about a week's time or so, and she'll be joining the fleet over there of the Formula H and the Super A, and she'll be earning her spot on the lawn. So that's the way she goes, buddy. Thanks for watching, guys. Any information you got or any tips you got, feel free to comment. Book 'em, Dano.